Welcome, welcome to Freaked Out with your psychic medium host, Liz Mott. Sadly, Landon's not here for this one, but it was really fun having him on the exclusive side of YouTube. I can't even believe he came. It was really nice to see him. If you have not checked out that video, highly recommend doing so. We will have another prediction video coming out next week. I don't think Landon will be there, but you never know. Today, we're going to be covering a revamping of our season 1 podcast episodes. This is going to be a part 1. We might even have 3 parts for this because there's a lot to talk about. But we started off with doing Summer Wells' case. Summer Wells is a kid that is, I believe, still alive to this day. So I felt it important to start off with her case. When it comes to unsolved cases, if the person is still alive, it is harder to channel the situation because I'm not communicating directly to a spirit. I'm actually seeing things through their eyes. So I've got to put a lot of the pieces together myself. We've got a lot to cover. We're even going to cover Summer Wells' aunt. Please, if you guys are not part of the exclusive content here, I want to give you guys so much content. We have a lot to talk about. Another frequently asked question that I get a lot is if I contact the authorities directly myself. And now, just an FYI, I'm doing all the channeling, all the production, all the editing, all the write-ups. I'm doing all of this stuff. So there are other people associated with my team that do fill out tip line requests. That's the best we can do. You guys are also welcome to take my videos and share them on Facebook groups, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, wherever your socials take you. You are more than welcome to share my content so that it can get seen. I'm not popular enough in my eyes to get seen all over the place. So I need your help when it comes to being seen with what I feel. And I hope together one day we can all really just find someone and bring them home. That is my biggest goal more than anything else, is to find someone and bring them home. We're not going to talk about all the details of the case. If you guys want a rundown of the case, you can go take a listen to our podcast episode. We talk about it extensively. So right now we're just going to focus heavily on like the key components of each case. And also, if you have any questions that I may have missed in this video or the second video, we're going to be doing like a Summer Wells Q&A with your questions. So please make sure to drop those questions. If I miss anything, get a pad and paper out just so that you can have it all ready to go. That way we can, do this together. That's what I want. I want us all to talk about these cases and do this together. Now, this case goes hand in hand with Summer Wells' aunt. Her name was Rosemarie Billy. Now, she actually went missing in 2009. She had gone missing in Wisconsin. Now, Rosemarie was only 21 years old when she went missing. She had kids, she had a partner. And according to her partner, she left at around 7 p.m. to go visit a cousin. And they were going to go meet in Crushing, which, okay. And her Pontiac Grand Am was actually found 5 days later, and no Rosemarie anywhere. There was no indication in that vehicle that there was any sort of sign of struggle. Investigators have indicated that Summer Wells' case and Rosemarie's case have no connection, and I agree with them. I feel as though, although this case is equally as important, I just don't see the connection. I mean, it goes without saying that that family has a really shitty way of picking out partners or specific partners. Like, they're not choosing the right men to have in their family. I don't feel as though the two cases connect. This one, I believe Rosemarie's case is more so a DV situation, and it really breaks my heart because there's so much DV stuff that goes on in the world. I'm truly over it. His name is Christopher, by the way. That was her partner. Now, things started to escalate for them, at least through the cops, June of 2009. From the looks of it, there was a DV call, and she had actually claimed that he had choked her out, slammed her around, But get this, she was actually the one arrested in this situation. I think because Christopher was more calm, like she was very escalated when the cops arrived. And I just keep getting this really disturbing vibe that in this moment, when she got arrested, he was like, yeah, it is her fault. It is her fault as to why I escalated. And in that moment, I think that he decided that when the time came, he could get away with murder. And that is something he thought about for a while, at least for the next 2.5 months. Now, where did she go? I believe that Christopher, we're going to talk a little bit more about the details leading up to it, but I believe that Christopher put her in a place where he could bury her body easily. I see a couple of things when it comes to this case. I feel like he had maybe a girlfriend or somebody that was going to become his girlfriend that he wanted to pursue. So I think that's where his heart was. Kind of Chris Watts style, except not hurting the children, decided that he was going to get rid of her. And when things escalated between the two of them, I think that is when he decided to take charge. I keep seeing like something connected to like Mountain Point or High Point mountain area. I looked it up on a map and I had seen this like big playground where it's like a big slide. I think it has something to do with water. I'm not exactly sure, but there's also this big grand view and also like a lot of trees. And I feel like that's where they went. And from what I can see, he dug down like 6 feet. Like he went all out with his friend. I'd say there were at least 2 friends that helped him out when it comes to disposing of her body. I feel as though he, again, went the strangling approach, and this time she did not wake up. But I think that was intentionally done, though, too. I don't feel like it was accidental in any way. I also believe that the children were in bed and that this new girlfriend was watching the children while he and his other friends took care of business. I do believe that Christopher informed his friends and his girlfriend that it was an accident, but in reality, it was not. Now, the day she went missing, which was August 21st, 2009, Chris and Rosemarie actually ended up purchasing new phones. Things were not escalated at that point. From what Rosemarie shows me is that things started to escalate that evening. And that was when he decided that this was going to be it. He was irritated with her. I feel as though she was telling him she was going to leave. She was going to take the kids. He was like, no, you're not. They're going to be with me. Like it was just a fight back and forth. He had made claims like, you're never getting these kids one way or another. I personally see that she, defended herself, attacked him back, and that was when he had enough and decided to unalive her. I also believe that he may have had some sort of weapon to kind of intimidate her, and I think that the kids have these core memories of these moments, and when they grow up a little bit more than what they are now, I feel as though these details may be shared later on. There might be problems with dad down the line, but until that point, I feel like everyone's going to kind of keep things hush hush, which I believe he had planted that. They had to make sure that this alibi was like rock solid. Now, here's the kicker. She went missing on the 21st, but he decided to wait until the 23rd to call authorities, saying, I was under the impression that I had to wait 24 hours. Your partner's not home, like you don't think you're going to try at the very least? It just doesn't make sense to me. He was buying time. On August 26th, they found the vehicle, which I believe his friend had placed there at like a very unusual time in the evening, like at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. No one saw him drop it off and he bounced out of there. I even feel like someone picked him up on the street where they met up with him just to make sure that no one had seen him dropping this car off and no vehicles were around to be, said like, oh, I saw this car, so they had that all planned out too. Will they ever solve this unsolved case? I think the police already suspect him. I don't see this case being on their radar to complete. It's there, but they just don't have the evidence to convict. I feel as though there are a lot of moving parts in this case that will eventually come forward, kind of out of the blue, out of like a mistake or something. And I think that this mistake will lead them to finding her body. And I think those clues will lead back to Christopher. But I do feel that it will at some point have some sort of resolution. Unfortunately, I don't feel like she's alive. I feel like he, killed her and he's kind of moved on with his life. He even filed for divorce the following month. Like, why are we doing that? I can understand the custody agreement, because if that was in fact true, where she just kind of vanished, I would want full custody of my kids too. But the divorce proceeding doesn't make sense to me. That means that you have other plans. You want to eliminate this relationship as quickly as you can. There are going to be people that talk about it. I hope you talk about it. I hope you're watching this and talk about it, because it needs to be said. This guy is not a good guy. He's gotten away with this long enough. Things need to be exposed. Those kids need to be removed away from him, and a lot needs to come out. Alrighty, that's everything I have on Rosemarie Billy. Now let's head right into Summer Wells. Sadly, when it comes to Summer Wells, I really feel like that kid was screwed from the very beginning. Like, when she was born, coming into this world, she had no chance. She was a girl. Her father, in what I feel, is a predator. I feel like mom kind of checked out from the abuse she dealt with dad. And then in addition to that, Summer is a beautiful little girl, and it was just not a good situation. Although Candace, her mother, and her grandmother really, really loved Summer, they didn't love her enough to give her the life that she and her brothers deserved. Let's talk about Don for a moment. Before Summer Wells was even born, he's been making mistakes his whole life. I feel like he has sexually assaulted many women, many young girls. And that scares me. I see that if some of these people would at least step up and talk about it, it could help bring some attention to who he was as a person. Currently, he's out of jail now. He was there for a while. Now he's no longer there. His hair is longer. He's more confident. I believe that he was molesting his daughter. I feel it in my gut. I see Summer Wells and her behavior before leaving this home, and I see her being very key components to sexual abuse. I just feel like he really messed with her, and I see that she was doing things to show the world that she was sexually assaulted. So this kid, just like I said, she really just never had a break from the very beginning. And I think it started when she was old enough to walk, and that scares me even more. Now, there was talk about how the grandma was planting and mom was planting, and Summer had gotten a peppermint and ran off, but I think that's a memory from another day. I don't feel like that happened that specific day. Now, her parents, Don and Candace, believe she was abducted and that they were taken down a steep hill in the trenches around their home. The cops couldn't even search. What makes you think a perp and your daughter is going to go in that direction? It's not going to happen. I'm really not convinced that anyone took her away from the parents. I feel like they had at least some knowledge of it. Here's exactly what the police officer said around the terrain. The terrain around the Wells' home was described as having a thick brush and steep slopes, making the search difficult. I also believe the police didn't feel like this story was accurate. Now, despite receiving thousands and thousands of tips, They have not identified any leads or suspects in this case. The reason they received so many tips is because a lot of people know these two and what they're about. And there also are a lot of little girls out there with blonde hair, blue eyes, so it doesn't surprise me. Summer's parents have faced a lot of scrutiny from authorities and public, and although they have passed polygraph tests, and maintained their innocence, the polygraph, in my opinion, easy for pathological liars to fudge. I believe that Candace was heavily medicated as this was happening. And when it dawned, I believe that he just believes his own lies. And in his eyes, she really was taken from him. So a lot of the questions surrounding this disappearance didn't make sense because there are certain aspects that he is telling the truth on with little white lies spewed about. Now let's talk about Don's abusive addiction. He has a heavy substance problem. And I'm not just referring to medication. I'm talking about alcohol. I'm talking about gambling. Like, there is an addiction to money, money, money. And when he doesn't have it, he goes on benders and like also borrows money. A lot of the people he would buy his medication from, he had an IOU trace on him. Let's just put it this way. He owed people money, and it wasn't just like one person, but there was one individual that he had at least racked up to like $50,000 to $60,000 with. And I see that this guy was coming to collect his debt. Very, very bad man. Cocky, very cocky, wears suits, but he's kind of sleazy. He has a lot of money. He does have a nice home. I've been doing a lot of research in that area. So recently in 2022, there were 4 people that were arrested in relation to drug trafficking. And I'm seeing Scotty, Summer, Christopher, and Joshua. I believe that Scott and Christopher are like the 2 main guys here who Don owed money to. I think he also has like a street name. I don't think that's what he goes by, but that's what they have publicly. He basically told Don one summer day, like, hey, you owe a lot of money. I'm not giving you any more medication until you pay off your debt. And Don was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the money. And he's like, well, do you have any other options? And I think Don jokingly offered up his wife as like, you know, hey, you want to take her on a few rounds? I mean, she's nothing special to look at, but maybe we can work something out. And they took one look at Candace and were not interested. But what they were interested in was what they saw. They saw a photo of Summer, and I think he had it in his wallet, and that's what they wanted. They wanted his daughter. And he was like, I don't think so. I'm not giving you my daughter. That's my pride and possession. She's mine. And the guy was like, well, we'll take her or collect her on our own if we really need to. It ain't your business. We're just letting you know as a courtesy that we want that kid. And we're not going to take her forever. We just want to see what she can do. We'll clear off your debt, and hell, we'll even give you some medication along the way. Now, Don, I see that he did hesitate making this decision, but ultimately said, yeah, let's do it. And I think that's when he set it up for this child to be taken away. I also believe that this was the day before she had gone missing. He went home. He got some drugs to take home. He was heavily medicated when he went home, and I see that Candace was informed of what was going to happen, and he said it'll pay off the debt. He kind of made it sound like she was getting an opportunity to like be on TV or movie or something. Like, he did not share the real story behind it. And I feel like he lied to her, and he said, look, we're going to just, give her to my boss, and we'll get her back. Candace was like, what? No, I'm not okay with that. And Dawn was like, well, you have no fucking choice because they're going to come for her one way or another. And then I think he kind of told her about like the money he owed. And I see that there was a physical altercation between them in that particular day, but I feel like he won the argument like he always does. So in reality, it didn't get him anywhere. I feel like she informed her mom of that too, which is another reason why her mom was taking pictures and videos of Summer. You know, you never know with Dawn. She didn't trust Dawn as far as she could throw him, but she kind of just kept to herself when he was around. She dealt with him, but they didn't have a really good relationship at all. In fact, it was extremely volatile. I see that Candace was extremely hesitant, but because she was getting her daughter back, even if she was molested, because she knew that her husband was doing something to Summer, and she just let it happen anyway. So, I mean, that's when he took Summer. That's when he took her and brought her to these men, and I feel like they were like, wow, you're really beautiful, and wow, we're going to hang out with you for some time, and we're going to give you some cake and candy and food because you're underfed. Like, they saw the way that this child was living, and they kind of looked at Dawn like, I mean, we're going to take her and do some really terrible things to her, but what you're doing with her ain't no better. And I don't know if I want to give her back. Like, I feel like there was like some sort of exchange there. And I believe that Dawn had no control over it. Go take this home to your family and we'll just take care of everything else. We'll maybe give you your daughter back at some point. I mean, it's like free babysitting. So he took it. I see that he came home. And I feel like that's when things started to progress because he said, no, she's not coming back. And Candace was like, what the fuck do you mean she's not coming back? You need to go get her. And that's when I think things escalated and they contacted the police. Now, there was a lot of hesitancy contacting the police because they are aware their home is not a place where children should be living at all. They know that in their mind, the police are out to get them. So they're kind of that white trash kind of energy. When they contacted the police and they came out, obviously the police are going to be like, okay, where's your kid? Like, are you sure you didn't hurt her somewhere and she's hiding out? Like, they wanted to make sure because that house was like a death trap. And I feel like from what I can see, Summer had like a lot of like cuts and bruises and just dirty. She just had dirtiness all over her and infections and nobody gave a shit. And even with her haircut, like I'm convinced that the haircut was done. It could have potentially been associated with lice, but I don't know. I feel like it was some sort of punishment, something telling me that the haircut was done intentionally to like demoralize her, like cutting it off. I don't know. There was a reason behind it. And when I figure it out, I'll let you guys know. But there was something very specific as to why that happened. I feel as though Dawn was contacting these people over and over again. Okay, when am I getting my daughter? And he was like, she's not coming back. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. We really like her and we're going to save her from you. But here's some more money and your debt is paid off. I think in that moment, Dawn kind of gave Candace the illusion that she was going to come back eventually, but that was never going to happen. I believe that when they had done the initial interview for them, the two of them, before they even went on Dr. Phil, she was still under the impression that this kid was coming back until she went on Dr. Phil. And when she went on Dr. Phil, that's when I think is really when things started to sink in for Candace that her daughter wasn't coming back. And she's not sharing any of these details with anyone. I know for me, regardless of the situation, like let's just say I was in an abusive situation with a person that was really bad and my kid goes missing, like that is the last resort. I am not protecting your ass anymore. But she does continue to protect him every single day because she thinks he's a victim in all this as well, but he really is not. And then, you know, the other kids got taken away too. But anyways, guys, I'm going to stop this video here because we have so much more to talk about on part 2, like where she went, where she is now, if she's still alive, do I feel anything? And again, we'll be back probably on Thursday with part 2. You guys will not want to miss the update on part 2 because wow. Anyways, guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like us so that we know that you did enjoy this video. And I hope that you all stay freaked out.